Hello guys, I'm Bethany and welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm in front of my bookshelf. I'm so excited because I'm going to be filming my mid-year wrap-up, mid-year book tag, whatever you want to call it. And I thought it'd be easier to sit in front of my bookshelf and like pull the books off the shelf instead of getting them all and moving them to a different room. So here we are in front of my bookshelf. I feel like I don't film in front of this unless I'm doing my TBR videos because the lighting isn't the best like when I'm making my thumbnails, but it's okay. I just thought I would do this in here and talk about all the books that I read the first half of the year, or at least my favorite books that I read the first half of the year. So I'm so excited to be filming this. I've seen a ton of booktubers film this, and I'm going to be doing the questions in the original tag, and then I'm also going to be doing the extra questions that Katie added in her video, so I will link her video below. I love her channel, and I loved her mid-year wrap-up, so I'm going to answer those questions as well. I will put all the questions in the description box if you want to answer them in the comments in your own video. Feel free. I also want to say I will be repeating books in some of these questions because I feel like some of these books I just love so much that I'm probably going to be repeating them. So I tried to not have the same books over and over again, but some of them might be repetitive. So let's get started. The first question is the best book that you've read so far in 2024, and I have a few of my top reads of 2024 that I cannot stop thinking about. But if you watch my videos, if you follow me on Instagram, you are not going to be surprised by these books. First, Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. Honestly, I don't have these in any particular order because I can't decide. Like some days one might be a favorite, other days another might be a favorite out of all these, but I just love all these so much. So first, Swift and Saddled. This is the second book in the Revelry Ranch series, and it follows Wes and Ada. It's like Golden Retriever, Black Cat. Every time I like pick up this book, listen to the audio, read quotes, it just feels like I'm going back home, and I love this series and I love this book so much. I've read it, I listened to the audiobook, and it's just so good. So this is one of my favorite books of the year. If you have not read the series, you need to. It's so good, and I think this one is my favorite in the series, but I did get an arc of Lost and Lasted, which is another one of my favorite books of 2024, and this is Enemies to Lovers, kind of. It's so good. I love this book so much, and I won't say much about it because I've talked about it in videos, and also it's not coming out till November, but I loved it so much. I wanted to mention that as well because it's in the series. But there's just something about Lila Sage's writing that just feels so cozy, and like I just love this book so much. It feels, I don't know, almost like real life, and you're just like hanging out with these characters and the found family and the friendships and the romance. It's just so good. So if you haven't read the series, you need to. It's literally obviously my favorite books of the year. Then Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is her new release in 2024, and it is so good. I've also read it twice. I've read it and listened to the audiobook, and it is incredible. It's following Daphne and Miles. It's like a roommate situation, and there's just something about Emily Henry's books. I feel like I love all of her books, but this is my favorite by her. This one just feels so real, and like you're just hanging out with characters, which there seems to be a trend of books that I really love, or books that like I feel like I relate to and that they feel like normal life. I'm just reading about normal life, and that's how I felt about this book. And I really related to the characters, and also I feel like the main character reminded me a lot of my husband, and I just love this book. The summer vibes, the writing, the way that Emily Henry writes romance, where like obviously there's some like tropes like roommates to lovers, forced proximity, things like that, but it's so much about the romance and just the characters, and I just love them so much, and I love this book, and it's just incredible. So if you have not read these books, you need to. Oh, I already want to reread it again because it's so good, and I have the UK cover and it's stunning. So, and then the last book in this question is The X-Files by Jessica Joyce, which will be out by the time you're watching this video, so please go buy it. It's so good. It, like literally, I cannot stop thinking about this book. It feels so deeply personal to me. I don't know how to explain it, but I just like related so much to the characters. It's second chance, best friends to lovers, but also the writing. Jessica Joyce's writing is so good. Like if you love Emily Henry, Jessa Hastings, like that metaphorical writing, you will love Jessica Joyce's writing. And it literally like hit me. Like some of the quotes and the writing, it's like painful but beautiful, and I just love the way that they loved each other, and you could like so see the way Eli loved Georgia, even though it's only single POV. So good. So this is another one of my favorite romances, or my favorite books of the year. So good, so good. Next is the best sequel that you've read so far in 2024. And I haven't read very many fantasy books in the first half of the year, like no sequels really. So I'm going to be picking books that are in like interconnected standalones. So first is The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. This is the second book after the cheat sheet. So this is technically a sequel, and I love this book. It is a football romance, and it follows Derek and Nora. They dated in college, and then years later she ends up being his agent, his sports agent, and it's just so good. I love Sarah Adams books, and I love this one was no exception, and I love seeing the characters from the cheat sheet. So definitely love this book. Thought it was such a good sequel. I didn't say how many books I read this year. I read 80 books this year, and I had 9 5-star reads. So if you want me to do a video on all my 5-star reads, I will, because I feel like I've had very few the first half of the year. So anyways, some of them are like mentioned, some of them are like some of these questions I answer with some of my 5-star reads, some of them were not. But anyways, love this book. And then next is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Technically this is the 3rd book in this interconnected standalone series. I don't know if that's considered a sequel, but I wanted to mention this book because I loved it so much. This is the 3rd book after Part of Your World and Yours Truly, which I do recommend reading first before you read this. It follows Justin and Emma, and they meet on a Reddit thread. And basically they both think they're like cursed, where every person that they date, once they break up, they go on to find their soulmate. So they end up dating so they can like combat the curse. And it's just so good. It did like hit me, like some parts are very painful. I feel like Abby Jimenez is so good at like writing rom-coms, and like it's so funny and lighthearted, but then it's also very emotional at times. So it's kind of like that balance that she writes in her books, and they're so good. So I love this one so much, and I wanted to mention it in this question because it's in my top reads of the year, and it was definitely one of my favorite like sequels of the year. So next is new release you haven't read yet but want to. One of them I do have, and that is Wild About You by Caitlin Hill. This is a little YA new adult romance, like a little summer romance that I want to read this summer. I talked about it in my summer TBR video. And then I also want to read The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren, which is just like a summer romance. I think it's like Marriage of Convenience or something. I don't really know. I didn't plan on reading it, but I've heard really good reviews, so I want to read that. And then also The Love of My Afterlife. I don't know who it's by, but it's like compared to Ashley Boston, and I love Ashley Boston's books. It's like magical realism. Also, crazy enough, when Zoe visited and we went to the bookshop, I got I Love Like the Sun for my like ARC book, and Zoe got The Love of My Afterlife as her ARC book, which is just crazy. So she owns that book, and she's owned it for months. And then I've been seeing it on Instagram. I'm like, oh my goodness, Zoe got that a few months ago. So want to read that. It sounds really, really good. Next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I have so many, so I'm not gonna talk about them too much, but I will go through this list pretty quick. First is But He's My Roommate by Anna Conwell. This is the last book in the Carter Brothers series. So excited for this book. It comes out in August. And then she has The Run Option also coming out. I don't think the cover's been announced yet, and it's coming out like later in the year, but I know it's coming out in 2024. So very excited for that. Delicate Escape by Catherine Cowles. Then Where Happiness Begins by Ennis Perkins. This is the 3rd book in the like Where Time Stands Still, Where We Belong series. Very excited for that. It comes out in August as well. And then Jennifer Lynn Barnes has 2 books coming out this year. The Grandest Game comes out at the end of July, and then Games Untold comes out in November, I think. Very excited for both of those. They're like spin-offs of the Inheritance games. Next is Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. This is the 2nd book in the Rose Hill Ranch series. The 1st book is Wild Love. You can see that. Very excited for that. Next is She Really Going Out With Him by Sophie Cousins. I love Sophie Cousins' books, so I'm very excited for this. Next is The Wingman by Stephanie Archer. I did not enjoy the 1st book in the series, but I loved the 2nd one, The Fake Out, so I'm very excited for this one. It's a best friends to lovers. Sounds so good. Then The Courting of Bristol Keats by Mary E. Pearson. She wrote Janes of Thieves and Vow of Thieves up there. Love that series, or that duology so much. I'm so excited for this. New release by her. It comes out in November, I think. Home Run Heart by Haley Gardner. This is a baseball romance, and it's the 2nd book after Girl Meets Girl, so I'm so excited for that. And then A Fine Line by Juliana Smith. This is the last book in her Wells Family series. So all of those books I'm so excited for the second half of the year, and I feel like most of them are indie authors, which is really cool, or a good bit of them. Next is The Biggest Disappointment. I'm not gonna talk much in this category because I feel like it's not really fun to talk about books you didn't like. Honestly, I feel like I haven't had many books this year that like disappointed me. Most of the new releases that I've read, I've really enjoyed. Most of the books I've read I've really enjoyed. So when I say this, I feel like it's the only one that I was like kind of looking forward to, and it just didn't hit the mark. And that is The Au Pair Affair by Tessa Bailey. It's the 2nd book after Fangirl Down, which I really enjoyed. Fangirl Down, it was spicy, but I still really enjoyed it. But this one I did not like at all. Like, it was just not great. It was super spicy, but even besides that, it was like I was just confused by some of the characters' decisions, and I was very disappointed. So I'm just gonna say that and leave it at that. Next is The Biggest Surprise. Also this, I feel like most of the books I wasn't surprised that I loved, but I did have one that I was surprised how much I loved, and that's Ready or Not by Cara Stone. I love this book. It was so good, which technically, like, this cover, the romance, it's a accidental pregnancy, so I usually like those, but I feel like I absolutely loved this book, and I was surprised at how much I loved it. It's just different than most accidental pregnancy tropes, or really all the accidental pregnancy trope books I've read. And the guy in this book is just so sweet. This is very much like a diary of like her pregnancy, but there is a romance, and it's just so sweet and so good. I gave it like a 4.75. It was so close to being 5-star, and I really want to listen to the audiobook because I feel like if I listen to the audiobook, like reread it, it very well could like be bumped up to a 5-star because I loved it and I love the cover. It's just such a good book. Next question is a favorite new author, debut, or new to you, and I'm gonna say Lila Sage because I love her books and I found her this year. And then also Anna Conwell. I've read most of her books this year and love them so much. They are closed door, such a good time, and I just love her books. So those are my two like favorite authors this year that I found this year that I hadn't read in previous years. Next is newest fictional crush, and I have to say Miles from Funny Story. I love him. He is just the cutest, sweetest guy, and I just here are my funny story. I won't get them out, but I just love him so much. I just can't handle him. He's the sweetest. He's like a new favorite Melman character, book boyfriend. I loved him. And then next is my newest favorite character, and I'm gonna say Daphne and Miles from Funny Story, and then Eli and Georgia from The X-Files. Obviously, they're my favorite books, but I just love those characters so much, and also any of the characters in the Rebel Blue Ranch series world. So, love them so much too. Next is a book that made you cry. So, we're not going to be surprised by this one, and that is Magnolia Parks 3, Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. This was quite dramatic of a read, but it was so good. I love the series. I loved this book, and I cannot believe Jessica Hastings' writing. It's just incredible, but also the kind of subject matter in this book is very sad and very heart-wrenching at times, so I did cry. Well, honestly, I cry in a lot of books, I'm not gonna lie, but this one I feel like I really remember crying in this book, and I also have a reading vlog reading it, but also this UK cover is just beautiful. So definitely cried in this book, and I just love the series, and I love this book, and I cannot wait for Daisy Hates 3. And I feel like this was such a good end to like the Magnolia and BJ side of the series. I loved it, but it definitely made me cry. Next question, book that made you happy. Love this question. First is Girl Meets Grump by Haley Gardner. I mentioned this earlier because the second book in the series comes out later this year, but I love this. It was just so cozy and happy, and it's closed door. I just love Haley Gardner's books, so highly recommend this if you want just like a cozy good time. Also, it takes place in August, so great time to read it. It takes place in the Pacific Northwest at this like little cabin, and the Melman character is just so sweet. He really reminded me of Jacob from Yours Truly, which we all know how I feel about Jacob, so love this. And then I also put all of Anna Conwell's books. I feel like they all make me happy, but specifically But He's My Grumpy Neighbor, I think it's my favorite by her. I really want to reread it because it's just so sweet and so cute. So really love that one. It is a like, obviously it's about a grumpy neighbor, but I feel like the Melman character is just so sweet. It takes place in this like little, kind of a small town outside of Atlanta, and it just feels so cozy, and I just loved it. Next is favorite book to film adaptation that you've seen this year. I feel like I haven't seen any except this one this year, and that is The Idea of You. Hated the book, The Idea of You, but I loved the movie. So if you want to watch, or if you have any inclination about this book, you should watch the movie because it's so good. I really like that. So, most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. I have quite a few. First, I'm just going to show it because it's beautiful. Stimulant edition of Yours Truly. I'll take it down. I got it in the mail a couple weeks ago, and it's so, actually like a month ago. It is so beautiful. I love Yours Truly, one of my favorite books of all time, and I had to have this edition. Then also the UK edition of Funny Story. It's absolutely beautiful. Like, I'm obsessed with this cover. Then I have these, oh no! Then I have the first print run of Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom that I found in my local bookstore. I am obsessed with these books. They're beautiful, and I love this duology. So that was such an exciting find as well. A Curse for True Love though. We love her. And then the last question in the original questions is what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And I have this spread in my reading journal of the books, the 24 books that I want to read in 2024, and I showed this at the beginning of the year, so I wanted to tell you what I have not read on this list. Those are the books that I like need to read by the end of the year, and I don't have many left, so this is like the spread. So most of them I have read, so I have 7 left that I need to read, and most of them I own. I can't get it out, but The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, need to read that. Last Time We Met by Emily Houghton. I'm very excited to read this, and I want to read it obviously by the end of the year, so I can mark it off this list. What I Carry by Jennifer Longo. This is a YA like emotional romance. My friend Allie gave it to me, and I really want to read it. Maybe Once, Maybe Twice by Allison Rose Greenberg. I bought this for my birthday last year, and I need to read it. The rest I don't own. The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Need to read that. I've never read the series, so want to read this. Then The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I really want to read the first one of that series on this list. And then lastly is Addicted After All, which honestly on this list might be the one that's going to be a struggle for me to get through. I'm like 100 pages in, but I just get so bored every time I pick it up because I love like the Calloway sisters part of the series more than the Addicted, and it's just hard for me to pick it up because I didn't love Thrive. So those are the books that I have left on my 24 books I want to read in 2024. Now onto the bonus questions. First, what books do you want to reread this year? Basically, I want to reread all of my favorite books this year. So The X-Files by Jessica Joyce, I'm going to listen to the audio as soon as I wake up on release day, which is next week. Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Really want to reread this and listen to the audiobook, and then also want to reread the rule book. I am listening to the audio kind of on and off, and I want to reread this by the end of the year. And then also all of Sarah Adams' backlist. I reread The Match, and I want to reread all of her other books as they're being traditionally published. So The Enemy, The Off-Limits Rule, and The Temporary Roomie. Also want to reread But He's My Crummy Neighbor by Anna Conwell because I love that book. Maybe also Ready or Not, because I love that book as well. Ooh, I also want to reread You with a View by Jessica Joyce. As I said, I love The X-Files so much, and I loved this one by her last year, but I feel like I was just in a weird reading mood when I read this, so I want to reread it and see if I love it more the second time. I did tab the heck out of it because I just love Jessica Joyce's writing, so I really want to reread this as well. And knowing me, I'll probably reread others, but those are what's on my list. Next is favorite author so far this year. I want to say Lila Sage because I just love all of her books so much, but also probably Jessica Joyce because I loved The X-Files, but I feel like I read the most of Lila Sage. So here we are again. Books you've been putting off. So I feel like all the books on my physical TBR I've been putting off. So I'm just gonna say that as a whole. I want to get through a lot of them, and also I'm going to get rid of a lot of them. So there's just so many books on my physical TBR I've been putting off, like The Invisible Life of Betty LaRue, these summer romances I have, summer reading, summer job. Yeah. So those are the books I'm putting off. Next is a book you enjoyed with mixed reviews. Really love this question, and I'm going to say Crescent City 3 by Sarah J. Maas. I feel like I've heard most people say that they did not enjoy this book, but for me personally, I think this is my favorite in the Crescent City series. I definitely think Throne Glass is my favorite series by Sarah J. Maas, but Crescent City is second and Actar is third. I really love this. I gave it 5 stars when I first read it, but when I said I have 9 5-star reads, I did not count this because I don't think it's as high as my other ones, and I might give it less of a rating. I don't know. I did really enjoy this book, but I don't think about it as much as my other 5-star reads, so I probably would bump it down. But I still really love Crescent City 3, and I do have a reading vlog reading it, but I feel like most people didn't love it, but I had a really great time reading this, and I thought it was really good and was better in my opinion than the other. She was like my favorite in the series, so did really enjoy this year. Also would love to reread The Right Man Been Caught Up, but we'll see. Okay, next is series you want to finish before the end of the year. One that I definitely want to finish by the end of the year, which I definitely will, is the Last Hours trilogy, which I have the first 2 because I borrowed them from the library, but the third one is on Libby, and I'd like to get way more into the Shadowhunters, but I don't want to say that I want to finish it by the end of the year. One, because I want to savor it, but also because I just don't think that's going to happen, or I don't want to put that much pressure on myself. But I definitely am going to finish The Last Hours by the end of 2023, which is Chain of Gold, Chain of Iron, and Chain of Thorns, which is a series in the Shadowhunters universe. I just read The Infernal Devices recently, so I really want to read that by the end of the year for sure. That's like the only thing I really have that, like a series I want to finish. Next is 5-star predictions for the rest of the year. Honestly, I don't really know. I do think Chain of Thorns very likely could be 5 stars. I also think A Fine Line by Juliana Smith could be 5 stars. Sophie Cousin's new book, Is She Really Going Out With Him? Also could be 5 stars. And Home Run Heart by Haley Gardner could be 5 stars. Those are like my guesses, but I also like, who really knows, because I feel like the books that have been 5 stars I wasn't expecting, so love that though. Do you think you'll reach your reading goal, or are you going to change it? I did reach my reading goal. My reading goal was 75, and I'm not going to change it. I just put 75 as like a goal, but I didn't really have a reading goal for this year. I don't really care. Like last year I had 100, which I did hit, but this year I'm like just reading however much I want to read, you know, so I'm not going to change it. Any new goals for the rest of the year? Don't really have any besides read my physical TBR, and also maybe get rid of some books on my shelf so I can make more room for other books, and just like not buy as many books, which I feel like I've been pretty good at, except books that I like want to read right now. Like I bought The Infernal Devices, but I feel like I need to stop buying books that just end up on my TBR card that I don't read. So that's the goal for the rest of the year. But those are all the questions. I hope you enjoyed watching this, seeing a little bit about my reading year so far up until June, and I just had so much fun. I love talking about my favorite books, talking about books I love. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Answer any of these questions in the comments. I would love to hear, and I think that's it. So I'll see you very soon for my next video. Bye.